It is the second model introduced in the 2025 Gear Fighter Dendoh collaboration with Meteorot S, sporting the likeness of yet another iconic robot in the aforementioned series. This is GFD01 Gear Ogre, with a mostly new kit of minus chain, break destroy, jet thunder, biped legs, and the leg ability of Frontal, which is a brand new leg ability that grants a bonus to power if the user is not attacked during their heating phase. Now, Gear Ogre, as the first gacha model in the collaboration at time of recording, is definitely sporting a lot more potent skills than Gear Dendoh as the welfare model at time of recording. But that doesn't stop the overall damage and chaos and destruction that it can cause with the number of new skills and new leg ability that it brings to the table, and just what it has as far as potential is concerned. Minus chain on the head part, and the only skill not brand new on Gear Ogre, is a melee skill that has a unique damage condition. And that damage condition is that when attacking the enemy, it will check for any negative debuffs applied to them. For every negative debuff it finds, this can be freeze, thunder, wave, deathlock, virus, flash, whatever it might be of any kind, every debuff it finds is a times 1.5 damage modifier, stacking up to 4 times. So this means this is already going to be extremely potent for enemies that try to make use of a lot of negative ailments, either on themselves, such as, say, double melt shot, or double fire shot, or flame, or in the case of allied teams that try to use a lot of negative ailments as well. The more they stack, the more dangerous minus chain becomes. Break Destroy on the right arm, and the first new skill that Gear Ogre is introducing, is basically just Destroy but with a gravity attribute to it. So Destroy itself is actually very useful in a lot of situations, but it is also considered a gambling skill, because if you correctly target the part that the enemy is going to use, heating phase, had used, cooling phase, or is intercepted by a shield, non-meta chain shield I should clarify, the part is instantly broken in question. No ifs, ands, or buts, period. However, if it does not correctly target any of the aforementioned conditions, it is instead considered a regular attack, nothing special. But the gravity attribute to Break Destroy does give it a hand in heavy punish, which means it's going to be a whole lot more useful in a lot more situations, and not necessarily as situational as basic Destroy might be. So essentially along these lines, if you do end up incorrectly targeting something in question that Destroy would not proc, you can instead rely on Break giving you the heavy punish. So if the enemy is using two or more heavy parts, they're definitely going to be getting a major damage bonus from that and a major punish, especially given that it is dealing pierce damage, or if they're wielding one or none, probably not nearly as many. Jet Thunder on the left arm, and the other new skill that Gear Ogre is introducing is basically just Jet Blow, which deals more damage the farther away the target is from Gear Ogre, but also applies a stack of thunder to the enemy after attacking them, effectively buying you just a few extra precious seconds of time to regroup, or buy yourself a few moments to take a breath if things are starting to turn the table against you, to turn things back around. One thing to really note about Gear Ogre, however, is the fact that Jet Thunder is the only move that is applying a negative ailment in question. So ultimate synergy with Minus Chain in this respect is going to be rather weird, unless you have other allies that can inflict more than one ailment. Biped legs means that Gear Ogre will have fairly solid coverage across all terrains at fairly decent terrain compatibility, usability, and utility, but his leg stats are definitely where he's packing some heat though. A base mobility of 906 is really solid, as this does mean he has a really good base speed before anything else comes into play, and an evade of 1114 also is very nice, as this does mean he can dodge or graze fairly consistently if he's not in any kind of no dodge penalty, either from an ailment or from a skill cooldown. A melee resist to 1749 is very impressive though, as this does mean Gear Ogre definitely holds his own when fighting anything that gets in his face. But a shoot resist of 1146 also is not that bad either, as he can hold his own both up close and at range with fairly solid consistency. But if you are going to get in his face, you are going to want to hit notably harder than before, because he's going to have some very solid damage reduction in that department. In the armor department, Gear Ogre is exceptionally bulky, with a head armor of just shy of 4,800, right arm just shy of 4,200, right arm almost 4,800, and legs at just shy of 4,500. So Gear Ogre is not only fairly bulky in the resistance department, but also extremely bulky in the HP department as well, which will make taking him down more of a chore than you really would hope if you're facing him as an enemy. All this being said, though, as a pure set score, I honestly have to rate Gear Ogre a pretty well-rounded 7 out of 10. Given that even though Minus Chain might be extremely situational based on usage, especially given that the only skill in his kit that applies a negative ailment is Jet Thunder, it is still a fairly solid base hit at a base power of almost 1480. And an extra 50% on top of that if you do manage to slap him with Jet Thunder first, and then turn it around with Minus Chain. However, he is also fairly situational, but in the good way, with a lot of variety he brings to the table. Break Destroy basically works twofold, so if it doesn't work one way, it works the other basically, either as Destroy or Gravity attribute with the Heavy Punish. Jet Thunder probably will be the most consistent form of damage he's dealing, especially the farther away the target is, as Jet Blow implies. But the thunder effect on there also does give him an added effect of being able to stall enemies and help him just get a little bit more time, especially given that Frontal allows him to hit notably harder as long as he's not touched during his heating phase. Now, this kind of goes part and parcel with having a defender on the team to guarantee nothing even touches him, but in the rare instance something might, it never hurts to make sure that you either stay on top of that dodge or just be prepared to not hit nearly as hard. But given that it also has a fairly solid base, I think it was like plus 500 or so, that is going to be extremely noticeable. As mixed parts, though, I do have to rate him just a little bit higher at a 7.5 out of 10 for these same reasons. He is weirdly situational with a very scattered kit, but if used correctly can be fairly synergetic as a pure set, but as mixed parts is where you can definitely mix things up a little bit. Break Destroy will give you some very solid coverage as far as the gambling condition that is Destroy, and the Gravity attribute of Heavy Punish on top of that. Jet Thunder for your DPS from afar and stunning enemies, Minus Chain if you choose to go with a more ailment-oriented kit or team build. Just be wary of anyone that is using Stat Cleanse or any kind of super armor kind of abilities to negate them. But the legs and the leg ability of Frontal are going to be really nice, because not only is it a very solid bipedal leg that's triple heavy, but very good numbers and a leg ability that gives you extra damage if you're not touched during your heating phase. Just one minor warning to keep in mind is the fact that, of course, because he is triple heavy, while he can most certainly dish it out with Break Destroy, he is also susceptible to anyone that is using Break or any Gravity attribute against him to cut him down to size sooner than later.